Hey everybody, it's Allie Edwards and welcome back to December Daily 2022. Today I'm working on story 17 in my project, which happens to be on the back of the tag that I used in story 16. What I've done so far is I printed out a photo. My friend Kim, that's her waving there, and I went out. Her family has some farm property and they have giant holly trees out there. So she texted me and wanted to know if I wanted to go grab some holly with her, and so we did that, and it was a really fun little activity. So my plan here is that I am going to adhere that to the back of the card, but I want to make like a window, sort of, window, I don't know if that's the right word. I want to make a flip open. So I cut one of the pieces of pattern paper to the same size as my photo here, which is basically the same size as the tag. And my plan, or what I'm thinking about doing, is just cutting this down the middle and then taking this die cut holly piece that was from the die cut pack and adhering it onto one side of the opening, so it will help to open it up. But I'm thinking at this time that I'm going to do washi tape down along the edges before I adhere it down. And then on the inside, once this flips open, I'm thinking that I will add some journaling on the inside part of that so that when it opens up. Now, one thing that I need to think about a little bit here is when you're doing an opening with all of the holes. So I might have it be that this side is attached, but this side isn't, and this side could open up as a page on its own. So we're going to need to do a little bit of experimentation around that. So let's see what we can come up with here today.
All right, so this one ends up being a really fun one to put together. And if you didn't have those die cut tags, this is definitely something that you could create on your own just by cutting a tag shape. I am getting precise with my cutting here by using a metal ruler and my X-Acto knife. This is my go-to, and you can see I just cut right on my table. I get, there's some things that I really am like, oh, this must be done this way. And then other things I'm like, yeah, whatever, I'm just going to cut into my table. But I like using this as opposed to cutting it on on my trimmer, just in various circumstances, especially when I want a little more precision and I want it to be exactly the same size. So you can see that I'm just trimming down my photo to be the same size as that tag shape, and then I am punching holes so I know where that's going to be, so I can now work on the construction of what this flip open situation, what is actually going to happen here. So now I'm taking the pattern paper and I'm going to do the same thing that I just did with the photo to set myself up for success here. I could have done both of them at the same time, the photo and the pattern paper, but every once in a while it doesn't go the right way that I want it to go, and so I just wanted to do it individually this time. So metal ruler and X-Acto knife tends to work great for this, and scissors can do the job as well, especially when it's something that's a little bit of a heavier weight, helping to be a guide as you cut. So I'm getting this cut to size, and then I am going to be trimming the pattern paper down the middle, or close to the middle. It didn't need to be exactly right. It's just a little bit bigger than 5 inches across. So I am going about 2.5, right at about 2.5, a little bit over 2.5, and then I'm going to begin this next phase here. So now I have the parts that can potentially open up, and what I'm going to do for the swinging part, for the part that's going to be attached to the photo, I'm going to use some of the washi tape from the kit and kind of picking out which words I wanted from the washi tape to be shown on here. And then I'm going to be flipping that over and folding it over so that it becomes what's holding these two things together, right? The front flap and my photo, and so they're connected together. So sometimes when I use washi tape like this, I will reinforce it potentially with another strip of washi tape, something else. In this case, since I know that the photo is going to be adhered, that back of the photo is going to be adhered down onto the back of the tag, I don't feel too worried about the washi tape pulling up from the back and not acting as it's supposed to, as a hinge essentially. And then what I'm doing next here is I'm getting ready to punch the holes in the portion of this door that is going to just be connected via the rings. So I'm going to use a little bit of washi tape just as a temporary holder in this case, because I could tell as I was holding it in my hand that it felt like it was not sitting in the right place. So you can see where I'm just going to grab another one just so that I can have it set really where I want it to be is how I'm using that. And then that washi tape will just pull up, which is a good example of why washi tape sometimes needs a little bit of reinforcing as a hinge, because it can be temporary in terms of how it is adhered, where you can just pull it right back up like that. So now I've got the two pieces of my hinge, my door openers there. And at this point in the process, I was thinking, maybe I will handwrite something on the inside, or maybe I will type something up. I was kind of considering a few different options. But before I move on to that phase, you can see I got out the little holly die cut, or pulled that back to the front. And then I'm going to also punch the hole in the top. And then I will end up punching a hole through the green pieces too. That happens a little bit later on. It was kind of like as I was moving through the process, I kept seeing things of like, oh yeah, I should do that. And oh yeah, I should do that. And I should probably do that one too. And I think what I end up doing here is just adding a little more washi tape to the top, again, to hold it in place while I am punching that hole. I'm going to run the ribbon back through the hole on top of the tag, but I wanted to give the green pieces of pattern paper there a little more space, so they are getting punched as well, even though it's, obviously it's going to be right in half basically of where the hole gets punched. And you'll see what I mean in just a minute here. Pulling that back off, and now I'm ready to work either on the outside of the cover there with the holly, and or the inside too. So next up here, this is what I'm doing now, is I'm using the rolling adhesive to adhere half of this holly die cut onto the pattern paper. This is going to be the little part that opens there. And as I was looking at this, I was thinking, okay, what do I want to put on the inside, or what do I want to put on the back? And I'm actually going to end up embossing that. But before I get to that piece in the process, I'm grabbing one of the canvas words that says "Let's be merry." I'm going to do a little temporary adhesive with the rolling adhesive there. And then of course, you guys will not be surprised whatsoever if I grab that red embroidery floss again and just do a little stitch on there. I think I've done that every time I've used these this time, and it makes me happy every time I pull it out. Just love having that little bit of stitching on there. So I'm going to use a little bit of Scotch tape, just like I've been doing on the past ones where I have added on some stitching. And then I am going to cover this with pattern paper, and you're going to see more on that in a minute. But this is that point in the process where I was like, what do I want to put on the inside there? How do I want to deal with that? So I went over and I grabbed my pattern papers to see what I had. And one of the ones is this December pattern paper. And I think this is in the main kit. If not, it's in the other package. And I am going to go ahead and I do just a little bit of a cut here so I can see what the actual width is. And then I'm going to bring it over to, or I'm going to bring the trimmer to it. And I am going to trim this one down and then adhere this on the inside. So it's covering up the spot of the embroidery floss there, and just going to give a little bit of pattern on the inside. And at this point, I wasn't sure if I was going to have anything else on top of the pattern paper. I pretty much figured I would do journaling on the other side. So I was just getting the setup of maybe it could be home to another embellishment or something like that, but I used rolling adhesive just to adhere that on there. And then next up is where I decided I wanted to emboss the inside of that, or the opposite side of the holly there. So I pulled out all my embossing stuff. I got my Versamark ink, and I'm just kind of laying it right down on top of the portion of the die cut. You could do this on the whole thing of the die cut if you wanted to before you adhere it, but the way that the process is working here today, this is where it made the most sense to do that. I'm going to grab my little snappy tray in a minute. I'm also going to hold a piece of pattern paper on top, just in case there was any Versamark that got onto the pattern paper that the embossing, gold embossing powder would stick to. I mainly just wanted it on top of that die cut piece. But I felt like this just was a little bit of a finishing touch. Just felt like it was doing something a little bit extra on the back, so I didn't have kind of a random back on there. At least by having a little bit of gold, felt like I was being a little more intentional about what was happening on that spot. And man, it is so satisfying to see that embossing powder melt. Every time I see that, I'm like, yes. There was a tiny little bit on the pattern paper, but not enough to bother me at all. I love how the gold looks on the back there. I think that that was a really fun way to address that piece of the front there. Okay, so what I did next was I went over to my computer, and my friend Kim, who I went with, she had just texted me yesterday a picture of the holly bunches. She wanted to make bunches for her neighbors, and so she texted that to me. So I printed that so that it could be punched with a 2-inch circle punch. And then the other thing that I did for my journaling is I simply just went in and screenshotted our conversation about going out to get the holly at her farm. And so I was like, oh, this is perfect. It tells a little story. It brings a little bit of tech into my storytelling here by having a screenshot, right, of a text message. It's a nice way to bring a different voice in and to just, do it a little bit differently. Now, I decided that I wanted to add on some more of this pattern paper, and for some reason I had torn it, and which made it so that it wasn't wide enough. But what I decided to do is just go ahead and adhere it on there, and then I'm going to adhere the torn part on top too, and just with the rolling adhesive, and get that in place. And you can barely see that in my actual project, like where the seam is. You can see that it's just a little bit on that top corner, but it's going to it ends up working great, and you can barely see where the seam is on that pattern paper. And then I'm going to adhere the screenshotted conversation and put that on the inside flap. Love it. I love it. I love it. I love it so much. It made me so happy as I was putting this one together. And you can see I just added a little bit of additional adhesive. Before I adhere down the text conversation, I'm going to add another tab sticker on the top. I think it says Jolly is the one that I ended up picking. It's one of the black ones. And I just fold it over the conversation there. You can see I'm punching the holes. I went ahead and added in the largest hole there. Yeah, that made sense to me. So now I'm going to grab those label stickers or the tab stickers. You can see I've used a bunch of them so far this year. They just keep being one of my favorite things. I really like adding them on in a variety of different places and ways, not just on the outside of like a page insert in my project, but on something like this. I think it looks really fun too. So I'm going to go ahead and fold that over. I'm going to add a couple of staples with my tiny attacher there, put 2 on, and then I'm going to adhere it down on the inside there of the flap. And then the other thing that I needed to do on this one was I wanted to add on a number, because I like adding numbers in this project. And I'm also going to adhere down that circle. It's just going to go right in the middle. I actually haven't brought the holly in from my car. I'm super aware that holly is poisonous to dogs, so I have a strategy for where I want to put it. It's basically what I'm doing. I just haven't had a chance to do it yet. I have a gold rimmed metal circle tag there. I was looking for some way to add the story number, and I looked in another one of my boxes here. I have these brads from Tim Holtz that are number brads, silver number brads, and some old, not old as in like old, but just some past years glitter stars here. There were some silver ones and some gold ones that I have in my December daily stash. So I'm adding this on there. You can see I punched the hole with my paper piercer. I'm going to fold back the brad feet, and then I'm going to add that right onto my little embellishment cluster there. And I think this turned out super cute. I also end up adding 2 more of those stars to the inside. I like to have things in 3s sometimes, especially with some of these kinds of embellishments like this. And it gave me just a little bit of something else to add in on the inside too. And you're going to see that in just a second. But I really liked how this whole little thing came together. You can see I'm trying to figure out how to get it in a spot where I don't mind it overlapping the word, but I wanted it to be like in an intentional place. So here I'm grabbing out two more of those gold glitter stars. I'm going to put one on the inside of each of the flaps, and we're getting pretty close to the end of this one. I will be taking the ribbon that I had put in there when I was working on the other side of the tag yesterday. So we're going to be pulling that through the hole of the ribbon. It's a really cute white and red ribbon that was actually on a present that somebody gave to me this year. So I don't have a source for that, but I really like how it looked. And so now I'm to the point in the process where I'm ready to add rolling adhesive and stick this guy down onto the back of the tag from yesterday. Had to pull out do a refill on my adhesive there before I stick this all down and call it good. Like I said, I really like how this one turned out. I think this is a fun way to have a different page size, but also still be able to have a little bit of pattern and a little bit of fun, because I could have easily just had the tag with the photo be the story for today. Like that would have worked just fine, right? I could have added a little journaling spot on there, but I definitely am still having fun playing with the pattern papers, and so I'm happy to bring that in as well. There's that red and white ribbon. I'm going to use my tiny attacher to staple it in place, and then we're going to keep moving on. So tomorrow's going to be the tags that I put together during prep day, or for prep day, which is a would you rather, and I've been collecting photos from kids to add to the back. So I will be back here again tomorrow working on story number 18, and I hope you guys have a great night, and we'll see you back here again tomorrow.